Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Yvonne Princess Shabango. If you are new here, you're welcome to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And voila, you're part of the graceful, the beautiful, and the wonderful family. You are welcome to another book review of. I'm actually not holding this book upside down, guys. Okay, so you are welcome to another episode of Booked, where we actually review books and we share our experiences and we share what we've learned from the books. And this book has taught me to appreciate life. This book has taught me the power of death. And this book has taught me that death is okay, it's part of the process. The moment you are born, you are going to die. Like, that's the gist of it. And it has taught me the importance of connection, and it has taught me the importance of communicating, the importance of friendship, the importance of relationship, and the importance of the small things that money can't buy. Literally, it has taught me the importance of the essence of life. Like, yeah. Anywho, this is a beautiful book. I bought it for 231. If you guys want to read certain books or you don't know what to read, I think you can just go to Wisdom and Wellness, and then you'll see some books that we read last year and all of that. So yeah, officially done with this book, and I thought, let me share my experiences with you guys. Let me share what I've learned, and let me share, some nuggets. Let's share. If you've read this book, what did this book do to you, and what did it teach you? Like, how did it change your life? Because definitely my life was never the same after reading this book. And it's crazy how I've been learning a lot about death, right? I've been learning a lot about purpose, about death, about growth, right? And this book was like, when I read it sometime last year, right? I read it last year, but I left it halfway. And when I left it halfway, I started reading other books, right? And, I felt so bad. I always feel bad when I ditch a book, right? But now I'm learning to understand that sometimes it's not time, it's not yet season. Then I finally read this book this year in March or February, in February. And it felt like a full circle moment. I understood why I had to wait, before I could actually read this book and all of that. Yeah, I guess I was slightly immature for the book at the time. So you guys can get yourself copies, 231 when I bought it. I don't know if the prices have changed, but yeah, you can get yourself a copy. So basically, this book is a true life story. It's not fiction or anything like that. It's a true life story. So basically, Mitch Albom, oh my God, he's an amazing writer. This book is thoroughly and properly written. Was writing this book with with his professor, because basically he interviews his professor in his last days of life, right? So basically what happens is his professor discovers that he's got a type of cancer, and then this type of cancer, or this type of sickness, actually sickness, not cancer, this type of sickness, it doesn't get better. There's no cure. You actually wait for your dying moments, right? And so basically Mitch was actually, so what happened is he finished college. This is his professor from college. Finished college, went about his life, disconnected with the professor, right? And then surprisingly they reconnected, and when they reconnected, that's when the professor was sick. That's when actually he started interviewing the professor. They started rekindling the relationship that they had. They reconnected and all of that, right? So basically, this professor's dying. And when you think of a person that's dying, or when you hear that you're gonna die, like, the first thing you think of is that a person is gonna be sad, a person is gonna be miserable, a person is gonna be just depressed. But what this professor here did is that Professor Morrie, what he did was he thoroughly enjoyed the last days he had on earth, and he used them usefully, and he understood that death is not something to fear. Yes, it causes pain because it takes away, right? But it's not something to fear because it's a part of our life. Like, there's nothing that we can do. We're all gonna die eventually, right? And so he started spending, in his last days, he spent quality time with the people he loved. He did the meaningful things, he wasn't afraid, he wasn't miserable. I remember Mitch asking him to say, ain't you supposed to be sad? Doesn't it pain you that you're gonna die? Ain't you supposed to be miserable? And he says, you know what, I have days where I wake up in the morning and I cry, but it's just for 10 minutes. It's just for a few minutes whereby I cry because this is hard. I'm gonna leave my family behind. They're gonna be in pain and all of that, you know. So he said he did cry, and he it was hard, but he didn't stay in the pain. He didn't lay in the pain. He didn't just let the fear of death or the pain of death or the suffering of death consume him. He wasn't, because at some point he was in pain because he had people looking after him, but he didn't allow the pain to consume him. He focused on what was important. He focused on what made him happy. He focused on what he loved, you know, what he enjoyed spending quality time with his loved ones. You know, I actually love this book so much because also there's something interesting that happens. He had his funeral whilst he's still alive. You know the saying that says, give people their flowers when they're still alive? He got his flowers when he was still alive. So because he knew that he's gonna die soon, so he had a real life funeral where people got to tell him what he meant to them, where people got to express how they feel to him and all of that. So it was a funeral before death. Like, it was quite interesting, but also the analogy and the context behind it actually made sense, because many of the times people wanna express how they really or truly felt about us when we die or after we die, you know. And it's so sad because, I mean, personally, I believe in eternity, right? I believe that there's another life after here. But for those that don't believe in eternity, technically when you say stuff at the funeral, it means no one is hearing. It means you're just saying things in the air. So why not say those things when a person is still alive? If you really love a person, tell them. If a person has hurt you, tell them and move past it. If a person makes you feel a certain way, tell them and move past it. But don't hoard feelings. Feelings are meant to be expressed, you know. Obviously you need to have a good manner of approach and all of these things, but express yourself. Treat the people that you love the way you truly want to treat them, you know. Don't be this person to say, oh my God, I really wish he was still alive. If only he was still alive, I would have done better and all of that. Do better now, you know. Give people their flowers. If you think somebody's exceptional, tell them. If you think somebody's amazing, tell them. If you want to hold somebody's hand, hold their hand. There's a new song by Cat Bands, I think. She says, if you want to do something, just do it. If you feel like texting somebody, just do it, you know. Yeah, let's live a life where we do the things that make us happy so that we don't have regrets. Let's not live a life of regrets. But let me just go into the book. I highlighted certain things. I'm not going to go chapter by chapter because also I want you guys to get this copy, because it's a really life-changing book. It's an amazing book. It teaches you how to face your fears head on, and also teaches you that fear is going to exist. Fear is inevitable, but the most powerful thing is you overcoming that fear. You know, there's especially if you're a big dreamer, you're doing big things, and you know fear is going to be there. You are going to be afraid, but it also teaches you the art of doing it afraid. He didn't know what death is going to look like. He knew how he wanted to die a peaceful death, but he didn't know what the other side looks like. And he knew that he's actually going to the other side soon, and he actually did it with grace, you know. And yeah, you basically see the power of death, because once you become cautious of the fact that you are going to die, I feel like it seems as though you start appreciating life more. You start being more present. You start being more excellent. You start showing up the way you should, because you understand that you live on borrowed time. You understand that life is very short, right? So basically this book is, the starting point of the book is they're having a lecture, like it's a live lecture. So how this happens is that there's no exam or anything like that. The only exam is just you expressing what you think about life, you know, and there's no memorandum. So they start off the lesson in class. So the curriculum is called life, you know, so they just genuinely learn the art of life, right? So, and then oh my goodness, sorry guys, just dropped this. I wrote something for you guys. So the starting point of the book. Oh, here's another thing that I learned from this book. This thing of being entitled or expecting people to feel sorry for you or expecting the world to stop because something has happened to you doesn't happen. So when Professor Morrie explains how he found out about the sickness, you know, he was sad, and then when he heard the news, he figured out that life is still going on. People are just moving around. After the doctor shared the news with him, the doctor is going on with his life. And this is what he said, right? My old professor, meanwhile, was stunned by the normalcy of the day around him. Shouldn't the world stop? Don't they know what has happened to me? But the world did not stop. It took no notice at all as Morrie pulled weakly on the car door. He felt as if he were dropping into a hole. Now what then, he thought. That's the thing. We should never assume that things are going to stop. Life goes on, guys. I think the truest line is that life goes on. And it's painful, it's hard to hear, but impilo iyaqhubeka without you, with you. Iyaqhubeka nje impilo ube ngathi you've never existed. Life does go on, hey? And then, yeah, here's one of the things that I learned is that accept what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. Accept the past as the past without denying it or discarding it. Learn to forgive yourself and to forgive others. And don't assume that it's too late to get involved. Guys, here's another thing. It's important that you accept things for what they truly are. Don't cover them. If you're hurt, you're hurt. If somebody did something bad, they did something bad. If you need to forgive, forgive. If you need to, to blow off some steam, vent, do it. But do not cover things. Acceptance. I think one of the biggest things that I'm learning currently is acceptance. Once you accept certain things and you acknowledge them for what they are, you're able to either improve them or ever leave them as they are. But if you can't correct what you don't know, you can't correct or acknowledge what you haven't accepted. If right now I say, okay, fine, I'm dark skinned, I've accepted that. Even if a person comes to me and says you're dark, I don't have a problem. Call me mnyamana, ni mnyama vele. Call me dark, I'm dark vele. Tell me that I've got big lips, I have them. I've acknowledged them and I've accepted them. But I become triggered if you mention something that I haven't accepted, you see. So it's important that you fully accept life for what it is, and it's important that you are a forgiving person. Other thing that I've learned is that this was on the second Tuesday, so they would meet up. Sorry guys, they would meet up every Tuesday and talk about different things and all of that. So from the second Tuesday, what I learned is that sometimes the only reason that we're not winning is because our eyes are too wide open. We are so focused on the surrounding circumstances. We're so focused on the environment. But sometimes what you need to do is close your eyes and then things start making sense, because you're not focused on what whoever is doing. When you don't see what other people are doing, or when you choose to blind yourself from what other people are doing, you actually get to focus on what is important. So what happened here is they played a game, right? And then so this is how the game went by. Okay, I want to summarize it as possible. For a moment, I'm sure she's going to thump on the floor. At the last instant, her assigned partner grabs her. So they were playing a game with the partner, so obviously you have to fall back, right? So if you could, you need a person that you trust needs to be behind you if you're going to fall back, right? So if you're looking and then you're seeing the way they're standing or you're seeing their posture, it's hard to actually be able to relax. But once you close your eyes and you just fall back, it becomes easier, because you're not looking at the distraction, or you're not looking at how other people are falling. So the professor said the trick is closing your eyes. Once you close your eyes, you actually are able to do it. And many other cases, like I remember I did bungee jumping, right? When I was looking down, I was like, what? There's no way I'm jumping off. But when I closed my eyes and went for it, I actually did it. I only opened my eyes once I was in the air. But if I had kept my eyes open from up there was no way I was going to do it. So he said, you closed your eyes. That was the difference. Sometimes you cannot believe what you see. You have to believe what you feel. What is your gut feeling? I call it the Holy Spirit. What is the Holy Spirit saying? And if you are ever going to have the other people trust you, you must feel that you can trust them too. Even when you are in the dark, even when you're falling. That's the other thing. If you're going to be trusted, people must feel that they can trust you. And you must also feel that you can trust them. And sometimes we can't see trust because of certain things that have happened or previous experiences, but sometimes you feel it inside of you. And sometimes because people have hurt us or people have a bad precedent, I'm not saying people should be gullible, but sometimes you need to close your eyes and try and forget what they did in the past and just give them a benefit of doubt in that moment. It works things out. You guys know, Morrie, my books, one thing about me, let's try and see, I don't know if you guys can see, one thing about me, I will draw lines on my books. Like, I will mark them, which is why it's almost hard for me to borrow other people my books. So on the fourth Tuesday, they talk about death, right? And then he says, everyone knows they are going to die. He said again, but nobody believes it. If we did, we would do things differently. This is the same thing that I was saying earlier, that I would say the title of this video is The Power of Death because of this, right? Because we think death is inevitable, but when you come to think of it, death is inevitable, right? And because we don't believe that we're going to die, or we think we have enough time, or we think we're going to live long enough, we take things for granted. We're ignorant about certain things. We do half-done jobs. You know, we are not fully present. We don't realize that this moment could be our last moment. And I want you to ask yourself a very hard question. If today was your last day, will you be fulfilled? And if the answer is no, you've got some work to do. And if the answer is yes, keep it up. Keep doing the work, right? And then he says, everyone knows they are going to die. He said again, but nobody believes it. If we did, we'd do things differently. Do what the Buddhists do every day. Have a little bed on your shoulder that asks you, is today the day? Am I ready? Am I doing all I need to do? Am I being the person that I want to be? So when you die, you need to be sure that you've utilized every talent, every ability that God has given you to actually become the best version of self. You know, you need to be able to look outside yourself and be like, I have lived. And if you're doing that right now and looking outside yourself and think, oh my God, I'm miserable and all of that, then you need to reconsider. You need to start living your life to the fullest, you know, and stop equating happiness or a full life to money, to materialistic things. A full life is internal. A full life has a lot to do with internal work. A full life has a lot to do with your inside, you know, your soul, your spirit, but it has a lot to do with internal self. You'd realize that many people have money, many people are rich, but they're still unhappy, they're still not fulfilled. They want more money, they want more things. Do not attach your fulfillment to things, because you're going to have a problem. There's always a new thing, there's always a new device, a new car, a new phone, a new house. Like, if you're going to associate your fullness to that, which means you'll never be full, because there's always elevation, right? And then but that's a very important question that you need to ask yourself every other day. And I love this book, guys. This is a very short book. You can just finish it in a day, but the only reason why you shouldn't be finishing it in a day is because it's really power packed. On the 6th Tuesday, let's see what they're talking about. The 6th Tuesday, they're talking about emotions. So basically the emotional intelligence, how to regulate your emotions, and how sometimes it's important that you don't just rely on the fact that, oh my God, I'm feeling sad, I'm not going to do the right thing, I'm feeling angry, I'm just going to be a horrible and a destructive human being. You need to learn to regulate your feelings, right? And then one of the important things I took out is learning to detach, right? He says, yes, detaching myself. And this is important not just for someone like me who is dying, but for someone like you who is perfectly healthy. Learn to detach. He opened his eyes and exhaled. You know what the Buddha he say, don't cling to things, because everything is impermanent. You see, that's another thing. When you cling to things, when you're holding things and all of that, those things will perish. You know, even your body will perish, you know. So the only thing that you should cling to is your soul, because your soul will never perish, right? And then but wait, I said, aren't you always talking about experiencing life, all the good emotions, all the bad ones? Yes. Well, how can you do that if you are detached? You're thinking, Mitch, but detachment doesn't mean you don't let experience penetrate you. You allow experience to penetrate you. On the contrary, you let it penetrate you fully. Like I said, you need to fully experience life, experience humanity, experience things, but do not hoard them. Right? On the contrary, you let it penetrate you fully. That's how you are able to live it. When you've experienced something to the fullest, one of the reasons why we keep on going back is because we are unfulfilled. You know, we're not satisfied. But once you're satisfied with something, you let it go. That's at least has been my experience. Usually when I'm satisfied with something, I'm just like, it's done. Let's keep it moving. And then obviously Mitch was like, I'm lost, you know. And then he said, take any emotion, like for instance, love for a woman or grief for a loved ones, or what I'm going through, fear and pain from deadly illness. If you hold back on the emotions, you don't allow yourself to go all the way through them, you can never get to being detached. You are too busy being afraid. You are afraid of the pain, you are afraid of the grief, you are afraid of the vulnerability that loving entails. But by throwing yourself into these emotions, by allowing yourself to dive in all the way over your head, even your experience, over your head, even you experience them fully and completely. You know what pain is, you know what love is, you know what grief is, and only then can you say, all right, I have experienced that emotion, I recognize that emotion, now I need to detach that emotion for a moment. So guys, it's also very important that you allow yourself to feel all the emotions. Don't disregard emotions because, oh my god, this is a bad emotion. It's okay to feel sad, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be in pain. Like I'm such a crier. I'm those people that cry quite a lot. I could wake up in the morning, give myself a 10 minutes cry and bang the whole day, and but I allow myself to feel. It's important to allow yourself to feel, and it's important that you allow yourself to be vulnerable, right? Ba-da-dum. Okay, and then on the 7th Tuesday, they spoke about the fear of aging. I want to take it back. I just underlined some stuff, but I want to give you guys context. Morrie had aging in better perspective. All this emphasis on youth, I don't buy it, he said. Listen, I know what a misery being young can be, so don't tell me it's so great. All these kids who came to me with their struggles, their strife, their feelings, or their inadequacy, their sense that life was miserable, so bad that they wanted to kill themselves. Basically, we were saying being young is miserable. And in addition to all the miseries, the young are not wise. They have very little understanding about life. Who wants to live every day when you don't know what's going on? When people are manipulating you, telling you to buy this perfume and you'll be beautiful, or this pair of jeans and you'll be sexy, and you believe them. It's such nonsense. Basically, you're saying he doesn't lust for being young because basically being young entails a lot of vulnerabilities. It entails a lot of being gullible. It entails a lot of stupidity, basically. And which is why it's okay for you to allow yourself to make mistakes when you're young, because I mean, that's being young. Half the time you're clueless, and it's okay for you to be clueless, right? And then he says, weren't you ever afraid to grow old? I asked. Mitch, I embrace aging. Embrace it. It's very simple. As you grow, you learn more. If you stayed at 22, you would always be ignorant as you were at 22. Aging is not just decay, it's growth. It's more than the negative that you're going to die. It's also the positive that you understand that you're going to die and that you live a better life because of it. And that's the thing, guys, as we grow, we start taking life more seriously because you understand that I'm out of time, and the life expectancy is very low, so that's what I'm saying, the power of death. And once you start understanding that death is a part of us, death is going to happen, and death is death. You become conscious of certain things. You start loving better, you start eating better, you start going to the gym, you start reading, you start sharing, you start teaching, but you make better choices compared to when you feel like you still have more time, right? And then yes, I say, but if aging were so valuable, why do people always say, oh, if I were young again? You never hear people say, I wish I were 55 or 65. And then he smiled. You know what that reflects? Unsatisfied lives, unfulfilled lives, lives that haven't found meaning. Because if you found meaning in your life, you don't want to go back. You're not trying to go correct anything, right? You want to go forward. You want to see more. You want to do more. You can't wait until you're 65. Listen, you should know something. All younger people should know something. If you've always been battling against getting older, you are always going to be unhappy because it will happen anyway. And I think here's another thing about acceptance, guys. When you accept certain things for what they are, they stop bothering you. Because imagine if you're so worried about getting older, you spend so much time worried about that. It's going to happen anyway. Like, it's not like we age backwards. We are going to age anywho, And then on the 8th Tuesday, they spoke about money. They spoke about money. I love this chapter. And guys, I hate how I'm just picking up the small things, but this is a beautiful book, a solid 11 out of 10, right? And then he says, you can't substitute materialistic things for love, or for gentleness, or for tenderness, or for a sense of comradeship. Here's another thing. We often think that we will become more loving, more kind, more nicer, more compassionate, more passionate when we have money. It doesn't work like that, guys. If you don't have characteristics or elements whilst you don't have the money yet, you're gonna have problems. If you don't have those characteristics, respect, being humble, being kind, being generous, and all of that before you get a house, before you get a car, you're gonna have problems. It's never gonna change. If you're a greedy person, when you get money, you're gonna want more. If you're not a giver, when you get money, you're gonna feel like people are bothering you when you have to help them. Like, money does not change who you are. It actually exposes who you are. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it, right? Money is not a substitute for tenderness, right? And power is not a substitute for tenderness. I can tell you, as I'm sitting here dying, when you most need it, neither money nor power will give you the feeling you're looking for, no matter how much of them you have. Here's the thing. Like, I think we ignore death so much, but death is important because it helps you become more conscious, and it changes your perspective in terms of what you think money can do for you or what you think power can do for you. Here's the thing. Power can never save you from death. Money can never save you from death. You can, and here's another thing I was saying the other day in one of my videos, that I love it when people are excellent. I love it when people are working. I love it when people are working hard and all of that. But it's important that you don't exhaust yourself, because when you've gotten all that money and all of those promotions and all of that, that promotion, that money cannot buy you good health. It cannot give you good health. It cannot repay the sleep that you needed 10 years ago. You know, it can't do that for you, right? And then he goes on to say, devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to community around you, and devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. You notice he added, grinning, there's nothing in there about a salary. So the most purposeful things or the most meaningful things have nothing to do with money. So you can't say you're not a good person because you don't have money. You can't say you can't love because you don't have money. Yes, money will buy you convenience, and yes, money will make relationships sweeter, and yes, money will make you feel good for a moment. But one thing I can promise you, it does not solve your internal conflicts or your internal issues. Money cannot satisfy connection. Like, money cannot satisfy things that are supposed to be satisfied through connections, through love, through forgiving and all of that, which is why you find yourself that you have traumas. Like, for instance, money cannot fix traumas. It can take you to a therapist, but a therapist will still tell you that you need to have a hard conversation with your mother. You need to have a hard conversations with your siblings. You need to have a hard conversation with your partner. You see, that's why you see that, yes, it can open doors, but it can't buy you certain things. I guarantee you that. It's important that you have money, but don't worship money. You know, don't let it rule you. You know, don't let it control what happens with your life. On the 9th Tuesday, they talk about how love goes on. And then he says, if I worried about being forgotten, oh yeah. And then he asked the question, right? What was the question I asked? If I worried about being forgotten after I died, well, do you? I don't think I will be. I've got so many people who have been involved with me in close and intimate ways. And love is how you stay alive even after you're gone. Guys, this caught me. Love is how you stay alive even after you're gone. When you loved people, when you gave love, like, it doesn't matter whether 20 years have passed. And I know a lot of people say people will forget, people will move on. Yes, people move on, but love goes on. If I loved you fully and you got to experience me fully, I promise you, I stay in your heart forever. I follow you everywhere, you know, because that's what love does, you know, and that is why we're called love beings, because love does that. And then he goes on to say, I believe in being fully present, Morrie said. That means you should be with the person that you're with. When I'm talking to you right now, Mitch, I try to keep focused only on what is going on between us. I am not thinking about something we said last week. I am not thinking about what's coming up this Friday. I am not thinking about doing another couple show or about medications that I'm taking. I am with you. And here's the thing. This is how we miss many moments in our lives, because I'm having dinner with you, but I'm thinking about, oh my God, I want to post on Instagram. or I'm talking to you but I'm thinking about many other things. It's important for you to be fully present in whatever that you're doing or wherever you are, so that you fully experience it. You're able to fully experience something when you are fully embracing it, or when you're fully in it. You know, if you're doing half jobs, you'd realize that, like, let's say we can go to an event and get different experiences, and usually it's because of the level of deliberacy that we have, right? A person can go to an event and miss a lot of gems or miss a lot of good moments because maybe they were thinking so hard about many other things, but one person can actually go and have this wholesome time, and then you wonder, did we go to the same event? But you realize because you were not present, you had many worries, or you were thinking about this or that, then you end up not doing what you're supposed to do properly. So deliberacy also is an enhancer of excellence, because if you're deliberate, present, and intentional, you're able to do something properly and you're able to excel in it, right? And then Rabakena, we're almost there, guys. I'm skipping a lot of pages because you guys must buy books, you must read books, you know. And then this is the 11th Tuesday. In the 11th Tuesday, they're talking about culture, you know, pop culture. This is how you must look. This is how you must dress. This is what you must eat in order to fit in. He says, look, no matter where you live, the biggest defect we human beings have is our own short-sightedness. We don't see what we could be. We should be looking at our potential, stretching ourselves into everything we can become. But if you are surrounded by people who say, I want mine now, you end up with few people with everything and a military to keep the poor ones from raising up and stealing it. The problem, Mitch, is that we don't believe we are much alike as we are. And here's another thing, guys. We're all interconnected. I think I also saw this in Brene Brown's book, Braving the Wilderness. You realize that we are all one body. We are all connected and we're all the same, whether or not you want to admit it, but we're all the same. I think I'll make a deliberate example, like with my parents. Like, I love tea. If you know me, I love tea. Like, I will drink coffee. Like, right now in all of my videos, actually I should be holding a cup of tea. Maybe I could do that as a signature, but I love tea. And I realized that actually I unconsciously picked this up from my dad. He also loves tea. One thing about me, I'm an overlover. I overcompensate. You know, I love giving, and I unconsciously picked this up from my mom. So it's like we are the same. And when you start sitting down and connecting, even the type of friends that we keep, like when I sit down and evaluate my friends, we're different but the same. You know, there's certain things whereby we all unconsciously laugh without looking at each other. Then you realize that we are actually the same but different. I hope you get it. You know, and then he says, we all have the same beginning, which is birth, and we all have the same end, which is death. So how different can we be? Invest in the human family, invest in people, build a little community of those you love and who you love, guys. Also, stay away from this thing of associating yourself with people you don't like just to observe or see what's happening in your life, in their lives. Just find yourself a tribe and stick with that tribe and enjoy life with that tribe, you know. Yeah. You know, find people that are like you, people that you love, people that you appreciate, and, you know, yeah, life goes on. And then we're on the 12th Tuesday. And on the 12th Tuesday, they spoke of forgiveness, right? And then he says, it's not just other people we need to forgive, Mitch. He finally whispered, we also need to forgive ourselves. Guys, many other times we've disappointed ourselves, or at least we think we've disappointed ourselves, right? And then he asks us, ourselves? And then he says, yes, for all the things we didn't do, all the things we should have done. You can't get stuck on the regrets of what should have happened. That doesn't help you when you get to where I am, you know. I always wished I had done more with my work. I wished I had written more books. I used to beat myself up over it. Now I see that I never did any good. Make peace. You need to make peace with yourself and everyone around you, guys. Peace starts with you. You know, sometimes you sit, you say, oh my God, I could have, I should have, you know, and we don't realize that all of those questions, or actually regret, stems a lot from not forgiving yourself. You can only get rid of regret once you forgive yourself. Because once you forgive yourself, you acknowledge that you didn't do it, you didn't go for it, or you did a certain thing instead of that. But it's okay, you know, and it's all in the past. And then on the 13th Tuesday, they spoke of the perfect day way he's gonna die, how he wants to die. And then he says, we are not everything that, oh, so, and then he says, okay, I need to read up. Morrie waited a moment. He shook his head slightly. No, I didn't, but I felt that I could. Do you understand? That's what we are all looking for, a certain peace with an idea of dying. If we know in the end that we can ultimately have peace with dying, then we can finally do the really hard thing. And then he asked, which is, make peace with leaving, right? He asked to see the hibiscus plant on the ledge behind him, right? I cupped it in my hand and held it up near his eyes, and he smiled. It is natural to die. It's natural to die. He said it again. The fact that we make such a big hula baloo over it, it's all because we don't see ourselves as part of nature. We think because we are human beings, we are something above nature. He smiled at the plant. We are not. Everything that gets born dies. Guys, that's the chat. And you know, somebody asked me, why have you been intrigued to read about death, you know, and all of that? And I thought, if I'm going to know my purpose, I need to be okay with such things that I may die, you know, and not even I will die eventually. And if I'm gonna die, I need to fulfill my purpose before I die, you know. And then he asked, do you accept that? Yes. All right, he whispered. Now here's the payoff. Here's why we are different from these wonderful plants and animals. As long as we can love one another and remember the feeling of love we had, we can die without ever really going away. All the love you created is still there. All the memories are still there. You live on in the hearts of everyone you have touched and nurtured while you were here. His voice was raspy, which usually meant he needed to stop for a while. I placed the plant back on the ledge and went to shut off the tape recorder. This is the last sentence Morrie got out before I did. Death ends life, not a relationship. Guys, this touched my heart because many other times when people die, we think that's the end of it. But actually what death does, it can, like, death ends a life, but it doesn't end a relationship. You know, I get to hold on to the memories. I get to hold on to how you made me feel. I get to hold on to how you nurtured me. I get to hold on to the principles you taught me, you know. So it's always important to, death is gonna hurt. I mean, no one is ever prepared because we're in denial of the death, but it's gonna happen. But I need us to start realizing that it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It hurts, it's painful, but don't stay there. And then also when he was talking about death, about the perfect day, also he was talking about relationships. Many other times we think there's a formula or there's a guide to how we can relate to our moms, how we can relate to our friends, how we can relate to our partners and all of that. But there's something so powerful that he says. It's a very simple sentence, but it's very powerful. There's no formula to relationships, guys. Some people's relationships look like saying good morning every day. Some people's relationships look like saying hi once a month. Some people, you know, and it differs in each season. I think that's another thing we need to understand if we're going to build long-lasting relationships. We need to understand that in each season, a relationship is going to be different. It's not going to be the same for the rest of our lives. And each season being different, it doesn't mean people love us any less, but it means we're growing, you know. And guys, we're about to be done. One of the things that I learned is that with life is the biggest lesson because it teaches you everything through experience. As you experience certain things, you get to learn certain things, you know, you get to appreciate certain things. So that's the beauty of it. And let's see. Okay. And then it also talks a lot about giving, guys. Giving is instead of being a taker, be a giver. There's something that giving does to you. Don't abuse yourself in the name of giving, but just give. You know, he says, Mitch, why would I take like that? Wait. We have to start somewhere. So he says, on Tuesdays, other people would visit my old professors. They certainly did on days I was not scheduled. Over time, I noticed a person, many who came determined to raise Morrie's spirits, spent an hour in his presence and exited in tears, right? And also, guys, this is when the professor has died because he eventually passed on in his sleep and etc. All right, and then over time I noticed a person, many who came determined to raise Morrie's spirits, spent an hour in his office and exited in tears. But they were not crying about Morrie's said fate. They were crying about their job, their divorce, their issues. I went in trying to cheer him up, they would say. But pretty soon he was asking me about my problems, and I was telling him he was asking more, and I was really telling him, and then I started crying. I went in to comfort him, but I ended up being comforted by him. And I think this is one of the beautiful gifts that some people have. You know, people come to, like, for instance, he received like a lot of visitors, right? People would go in to comfort him, people would try and be there for him, but when they left, they were the ones that ended up being comforted, you know. So sometimes many other times whereby we walk into people's lives, or we put ourselves in situations with the thought that we are resolving problems, or with the thought that we're bringing in something, but you find that whatever that you're walking into is actually what provides for you, or it's actually what gives you something, guys, you know. Let me just use an example of a relationship, right? You know, sometimes we think we're the better ones, but over time we realize actually my partner changed me for the better. I thought I was the one doing the fixing, but they actually ended up being the one to teach me certain things. They ended up being the one to comfort me. They ended up being the one to show me what life means, you know. And then he said, finally, one Tuesday, I confronted Morrie. I don't understand, I said. If ever everyone had finally earned the right to say, let's not talk about my problems. Let's not talk about your problems. Let's talk about my problems. It would be you. You are sick and it's really a tough disease. Why don't you just accept their sympathy? Morrie raised an eyebrow. Mitch, why would I take like that? Taking just makes me feel like I'm dying. Giving makes me feel like I'm leaving. Giving makes me feel like I'm leaving. This is a profound sentence, and so true, because the opposite we know is false. Taking never makes you feel alive. It may be the basis of marketing, commercialism, medicine avenue, but we know what Morrie said about not buying the culture. Taking a new car, taking a new suit, taking a new flat screen TV, none of it will ever make you feel alive. It's temporary thrill, gone quickly when the new smell or the warranty wears off. Morrie understood this. It's why many of his possessions could be described as the older model. He was invested in something else, giving himself away. At some point during his dying, it became his immortality. Giving is living. At the verge of his death, you would think that a person, all they want to do is go to a destination holiday, they want to exhaust their money, they want to squander their money and all of that. But what he did is he took his time and gave it to people. He took his time and listened to people. He took his time and comforted people, and which is a very rare thing from a person that is going through the most, because usually when we're going through stuff, we want to be left alone. So yeah, like, there's more in this book. As small as it is, there's more lessons I got from this book. You guys should check it out and tell me what you thought of the review, and tell me how I can improve the reviews and how I can make them better, and what you're expecting in the next book review. I love you all. God bless you. Mwah.